They gave me the power to steal others' dreams, while they were stealing something from me whose value I didn't realize until it was too late. They were stealing my peace, my sleep, and perhaps my soul. My name is Jason. I grew up in a simple working-class neighborhood in a small town in West Virginia. Like the other kids from the crowded, noisy streets, I believed that hard work in school was my ticket out. That perseverance would unlock the doors to the bright future I'd dreamed of since I was a child. I studied relentlessly, endured exhaustion, clinging to hope like a drowning man clings to a piece of driftwood. But reality was harsher than I ever anticipated. Just as I awaited the fruits of my labor, I was shocked to discover that life doesn't always reward those who struggle. One by one, I watched my peers from the neighborhood move ahead. One landed a respectable job, another opened a successful business, and another saved up money and left town for major cities to live the life we all used to dream about. One evening, on a street corner, the years blew past like a cold, indifferent wind. I saw my childhood friends get married, have children, driving their fancy cars to work every morning, while I remained frozen in place, stuck at a point I couldn't move beyond. Time refused to carry me with it, leaving me there on the same sidewalk, in front of the same house, counting the nights and contemplating the same emptiness. I don't know if it was bad luck or an inescapable fate. All I know is that I felt something strange watching me from the shadows of life. Destiny itself was waiting for the right moment to open a door to another world for me. During that period, I slid down a path I never imagined I would walk. It started with a cigarette, then a drink, then a slow descent into a meaningless life. I did everything just to silence that voice inside me. The voice that whispered to me every night, "You're a failure, worthless, no one sees you." I wasn't searching for pleasure, but for a temporary peace that would kill my thoughts, even for just a few minutes. I drifted among unfamiliar faces, sitting in transient gatherings with people whose only common bond with me was the desire to escape reality. Faces changed, classes were filled and emptied, and laughter held no meaning. Over time, I realized I had become a stranger, even among strangers, friendless, with no close family, and without a purpose. I spent most of my nights alone, sitting in a deserted corner of the neighborhood, watching distant lights twinkle from behind other people's windows, while I made do with the company of silence and my cheap drink. That particular night was different. I was sadder than usual, more lethargic. The whole world felt like it was pressing down on my chest. I grabbed my bottle and headed to my usual spot behind the neighborhood, in that empty lot where nobody ever went. But the surprise was that the place wasn't empty this time. I saw from a distance a group of people around a blazing fire, their voices rising with laughter and song, the smell of smoke hanging heavy in the air. The scene seemed fleeting, just a bit of drunken fun. So I decided to move further away. I kept walking until I reached the edges of the farmlands, where there was no light but the moon, and no companion but the cold air gently stinging my face. I sat on the dirt, sipping from my bottle, trying to convince myself I was okay, that loneliness was better than disappointment. Only a few moments passed before I heard faint singing carried on the wind. It was a strange voice, not like ordinary human singing, a voice that carried something of both sorrow and enchantment in its tones. I looked right and left, peering into the darkness for its source. And there, just a few meters away, I saw the same fire again. But this time, the light was deeper, warmer, as if it were inviting me. Around it, a group of young men and women were dancing with slow, strange movements, as if in a ritual only they understood. I didn't pay them much mind and returned to drowning in my thoughts. But suddenly, one of the young men appeared beside me. I hadn't heard his footsteps, hadn't felt him approach. It was as if he had materialized from nowhere. I turned to him quickly, stunned. There was nothing threatening in his features, but there was something unsettling about his presence. Something I didn't understand in that moment. Something that would change my life forever. The young man looked at me with a gentle gaze, a reassuring smile on his face that brought a strange peace to my soul. He said in a soft, mellifluous voice, "Why do you sit alone, my friend? Come, sit with us." I gave him a faint smile, trying to appear comfortable, despite my inner turmoil, and said, "Thank you, but I prefer to be alone. I'm looking for some quiet." He nodded understandingly and said, while looking at the distant horizon, "I understand that. We all have our own burdens. But remember something, my friend. Running from the world isn't done by distancing yourself from it, because the world isn't around you. It's in your mind. As long as you're thinking about it, you'll never find peace." Then he turned and left with quiet steps, saying before he moved away, "We're over there, near the fire. Come whenever you wish." I kept watching him as he walked away. His words had carved something inside me. He seemed cultured, refined, different from the others I was used to seeing in such places. I thought to myself, maybe they're like me. People life has been hard on, just looking for a moment of forgetfulness. Only minutes passed before I saw her. A girl approaching me with soft, determined steps, as if she had known me for ages. She was beautiful in a way that's hard to describe. Her beauty wasn't like anything you see in reality. It held a hidden enchantment that bewildered the senses. Her long black hair flowed over her shoulders like a quiet night, and her clothes were elegant, utterly out of place in a location like this. She greeted me with a warm smile and said in a soft voice, tinged with a hint of seduction, "What's wrong? Don't you like sitting with us?" I couldn't find an answer, so I remained silent. As she gently placed her hand on my shoulder, I looked into her eyes and saw a mysterious glimmer in them, as if they reflected the distant fire. "Come on," she said. "Come with me. We won't leave you alone." Before I could process what was happening, she was pulling me by the arm with a lightness and warmth I couldn't resist, and I followed her as if in a trance. I reached the fire and found the same young man there. I learned his name was Michael, and with him was the girl, Maya, and 4 others whose names I didn't catch then. They were all friendly, cheerful, a little strange, but their warmth made me forget my caution. We sat around the fire, singing, laughing, and drinking. I drank from a beverage I had never tasted before. Its flavor was strange, somewhat pungent, but it flowed through my body like a soft warmth that melted the pain away. Their singing was in a language I didn't understand, a strange melody that seeped into your core, unlike any human tune. Yet, I was captivated by it, captivated by them. I forgot my troubles, I forgot myself, and even my sense of time disappeared. We stayed like that until dawn approached. As the fire began to die down, I stood up and stumbled back to my house, possessed by a strange euphoria and a mix of relief and numbness. And from that night on, those strangers became my constant nightly companions. Whenever darkness fell, I would find them there, waiting for me around the same fire, as if the night itself had forged a secret pact between us. At first, I didn't notice anything strange about it. Every night, I would go out to them, sit with them, we'd chat and talk, or so I thought. Then suddenly, I'd find myself at my front door at dawn, not remembering how I got back or what had transpired between us. I thought it was just the effect of the drink, that the forgetfulness was part of a passing drunkenness, not worth worrying about. But as the days passed, I began to realize things that weren't logical, their strange dancing that resembled no human dance, the fire that vanished with the first light of dawn without leaving a trace, even the food that would suddenly appear before us. Food I never saw anyone prepare or cook, and I had no idea where it came from. I justified it all to myself, blaming the drink, that it numbed the senses and messed with memory. So I ignored the weirdness and surrendered to its warmth. Until that night came, the night when everything was revealed. It was different from the start. I had no desire to drink, perhaps because I was exhausted from everything. I sat with them, watching them dance around the fire, reveling and singing, while I was sunk in my silence and sorrow. My mind was wandering far away to my wretched situation, my inability to progress, this bitter feeling that life was passing me by. Michael's voice interrupted me, saying in a joking tone that hid something mysterious behind it. "Why aren't you drinking with us tonight, Jason? Have you returned to your old sorrows? Come on, drink to forget your troubles." I lifted my head slowly towards him and said in a faint but bitterness-filled voice, "I don't want to forget. Michael, I want a solution, a real solution to all my suffering. I want all this to end." A strange silence fell between us. Then Michael looked at me with a seriousness I hadn't seen in him before and said in a heavy tone, "Tell me, what exactly do you need? Tell me what you want, and I will help you, no matter what." Maya approached and sat next to us, looking at me with her wide eyes, which held an indescribable glint of curiosity and anticipation. I averted my gaze towards the neighborhood, shimmering in the distance under the moonlight, sighed, and said in a trembling voice, "I want to leave this place. I want to change my life. I want to achieve something, anything like the others." They exchanged mysterious glances. Then Maya said with a strange coldness, "Then leave. What's stopping you?" I smiled a bitter smile and said, "Money. I need a job, a source of income. All dreams start with money and end with it." And here they all burst into laughter, a long, strange laughter whose echo mixed with the buzzing of the fire until I felt the very air vibrate. Michael looked at me again, that incomprehensible, mysterious smile on his face, and said, "That's your only problem. Why didn't you tell us before? It's easier than you think. Come on, drink." I raised my head towards him, agitated. "Easy. Money is an impossible dream for me, one that only comes true for others," he answered, coming closer, his voice low, whispering a dangerous secret. "It is very easy. But tell me, Jason, are you ready to do anything? And I mean anything, to make your dream come true?" His silence after these words was heavier than air, and all their gazes were fixed on me with strange anticipation. In that moment, I felt I was standing on the edge of something unlike the world I knew. I answered them with a strange confidence, something inside me moving me without conscious thought. Yes, whatever it costs me. I just want to live like others, to live life, not watch it from a distance. And no sooner had I spoken these words than everything around me changed. Their bodies began to vibrate in a slight tremor at first, then intensified until it was as if the ground was shaking beneath us. Amidst this strange turmoil, their forms transformed before my eyes. I saw their faces alter, their features melting like molten wax to reveal other faces beneath. Heads of black goats with shiny hair, their eyes glowing like embers, their hooves striking the earth with a heavy rhythm like drums in the depths of the night. Their arms were long, covered in dark black hair, their tips almost touching the ground. I couldn't move. I felt the blood freeze in my veins and my breath catch between my chest and throat. Then Maya's voice came, the same soft, familiar voice, unchanged despite her terrifying form. She said in a reassuring tone, as if addressing a frightened child, "Don't be afraid, Jason. We are your companions, as we always have been. But the time has come for you to know our truth. We are of the Jinn, as you see. We have never harmed you, and we never will. We only want to help you." I was trembling, wanting to flee, but my feet wouldn't move. Michael approached with slow, steady steps until he was directly in front of me, then stretched out his hand towards me and said in a hoarse voice, carrying a strange tone between promise and threat, "Put your hand in ours, Jason, and we will give you everything you desire. Money, wealth, status, everything you've ever dreamed of." I hesitated for a moment, my gaze shifting between their burning eyes and their strange faces. I was terrified, but in the midst of the terror, another voice crept into my heart, whispering inside me, "If they wanted to harm you, they would have done so long ago. They have been better to you than humans themselves." Then I remembered their promises, the ones that tempt every desperate person in the world, and I said to myself, "I've tried every other way, so why not?" I stretched out my trembling hand slowly until it touched Michael's hand. It was cold, unnaturally so, as if it were made of ice, but it gripped my hand with strength and a sudden warmth. He smiled a strange smile, half human and half something else, a smile that made my heart tremble for no apparent reason. And suddenly, as it began, everything returned. Each of them returned to their human form. The fire became calm again. Their faces became familiar, as if nothing had happened. I sat silently, stunned, breathing with difficulty, until I finally managed to speak and said hesitantly, "And now what? Will you make me a sorcerer?" Everyone burst into laughter, a long, broken laughter that sounded like an echo from a distant place. Maya approached me with her cunning eyes and said, "No, we are not Jinn sorcerers, and we have nothing to do with magic. We are of a different, more free and dangerous kind." Then she smiled and added in a light lilt that didn't resemble human voices, "We are of the Jinn thieves, and we will make you, Jason, the most skilled thief among humans." I answered them with astonishment and a mix of refusal. "I want wealth. I don't want to take risks and end up in jail. Unless you will be the ones stealing and bringing me what you steal." Michael smiled with a calm confidence, as if my words didn't bother him, and said reassuringly, "Don't worry, we will be with you, but not in that way. Each of us has a specialty, and we will teach you everything. And so, starting that night, they began to teach me the secrets and nature of their work. Michael taught me his 7 names, a short incantation, no longer than a whisper that I could use before any house I wanted to rob. I would utter it, and an invisible force would slip into the house, enveloping the sleepers in a deep, comatose slumber, from which they wouldn't wake, even if drums were beaten over their heads. All I had to do was take what I wanted, then move a sufficient distance from the house until its inhabitants woke up and everything returned to normal, with no one remembering a thing. As for Maya, her specialty was robbing people's will. She taught me how to stop a victim on the street, utter the words she taught me, and their resistance would melt away, becoming submissive, handing over what was in their hand or their pocket willingly. Then, once I moved away, they would regain consciousness as if nothing had happened. The others had other specialties. One of them could open locks with a touch of his fingertip, as if his fingers were magical keys. Another would write a talisman on a banknote and give it to a small shop. As soon as I uttered the words, that note would return to me along with everything in the shop's cash register, as if the money itself was drawing the treasure of the safe to it. And there was another girl named Lila, whose specialty was gathering information. She would roam the alleys and pierce through shadows to tell me which houses hoarded money and gold, and which shops were worth targeting, thus being my guide in planning my operations. And so, I launched into my new profession. The first time, I was filled with tension and a rapidly beating heart. But the moment I took that first step, I realized how easy the procedures were and how effective what I had learned was. Gradually, the fear subsided and the results began to show. Money in my pocket, valuables in my hand. I grew accustomed to it, and it became my usual occupation, which I practiced with complete freedom. My life turned upside down. I was immersed in an overwhelming euphoria, as if I were living a golden dream from which I never wanted to wake. Money piled up before me in high stacks, neatly arranged banknotes gleaming, gold pieces I collected from here and there, as if they were treasures from a bygone era. And yet, I didn't sell any of it, and spent only the bare minimum, simple expenses, just enough to keep my appearance normal. I was afraid people would notice me, would wonder where this young man had suddenly gotten such wealth. I lived between concealed riches and the fear of my secret being exposed, so I became as cautious as someone walking a tightrope over an abyss. One day, I was sitting in an upscale cafe in a neighborhood far from where I lived, sipping my coffee slowly, enjoying the cigarette smoke dancing in the air. As I was about to leave, I spotted from a distance an elderly woman walking with calm steps, golden bracelets dangling from her wrists, their shine glittering under the sunlight. I couldn't suppress the thought that sprang into my mind. A suitable opportunity. I said to myself, I'll rob her of what she has and return home early. I followed her lightly, like a shadow, until she entered a narrow, completely deserted alley. There I raised my hand and began to recite Maya's incantation as she had taught me, in a low, gradual voice. I was advancing towards her, picturing the scene in my imagination. She would stop, turn with glassy, will-less eyes, extend her hand, and give me her jewelry in complete submission. But what happened defied all my expectations. The woman turned to me, a calm, reassuring smile drawn on her face, and said in a tender voice full of compassion, "Yes, my son. Do you want something from me?" I froze in place. The incantation wasn't working. I recited it again, once, twice, 3 times, to no avail. The woman kept looking at me with the same calm, as if she knew exactly what I was doing. At that point, I managed the situation, gave a forced smile, and said awkwardly, "I'm sorry, ma'am. I mistook you for someone else." Then I turned around with nervous steps and retraced my path. But my heart wouldn't calm down. There was something about that woman that was suspicious and awe-inspiring. Her gaze wasn't that of an ordinary person. That night, I summoned Maya immediately and told her what had happened. I asked her agitatedly, "Who is that old woman? Why didn't your incantation work on her?" But she was evasive. Her eyes were worried, her voice tinged with sharpness. "Drop the subject, Jason. Forget about her. Don't think about her again." Yet her words only increased my suspicions instead of extinguishing them. I couldn't sleep that night, and the next morning I returned to that same neighborhood, wandering as if searching for an escaping shadow, until I saw her again, walking with her confident steps. I followed her in silence this time, more cautiously, until I saw her enter an old, modestly built house at the end of the alley. From that moment, I made my decision. Tonight, I will break into her house and learn her truth myself. And when darkness fell, I returned there. I stood before her silent house, the iron gate dilapidated, the windows tightly shut. I recited the sleep incantation Michael had taught me, then lightly jumped over the wall and landed inside the dark courtyard. Silence enveloped the place like a heavy blanket. All that could be heard was the creaking of the wind passing through the dry trees behind the house. I advanced with hesitant steps towards the main door and pushed it slowly until it opened with a faint creak, as if the house itself was protesting my entry. The moment I opened the door, I froze in place. The old woman was there, sitting at a small table with an elderly man who seemed to be her husband, small teacups steaming in front of them. The faint light emanating from an old brass lamp gave the scene a strange character, somewhere between tranquility and awe. I was flustered. My heart began to beat fast, and sweat gathered in my palms. I thought about fleeing, but the woman's voice came, calm and steady. "Come in, my son. We were expecting you." I stood there, stunned, trying to comprehend what was happening. How did they know I would come? And why did everything seem normal, as if they were receiving an ordinary guest? I hesitated for a moment, then decided to confront the situation. I entered with slow steps, looking at them in wary silence. The old man raised his head towards me with steady eyes and said in a deep, reassuring voice, "What is it, son? Sit down. Did you expect to find us asleep?" Then he calmly extended his hand and offered me a cup of tea. I stammered, muttering fragmented words. "But how did you know I would enter your house? And why weren't you affected by the incantation?" The old woman smiled a faint smile and said in a tone closer to compassion than reproach, "Sit down first, my son, and thank God this happened with us and not with others. Imagine if you had broken into another house and its owners were startled. Would they have let you leave in peace?" I bowed my head in shame and confusion and sat before them, avoiding looking into their eyes. The man intervened, saying with a dignified calm, "You seem like a respectable young man. So what has gotten you into this? What path is this you're walking, son?" I felt as if a wall of fear and curiosity was pressing on my chest. I muttered in a faint, broken voice. Who are you, and how is this happening? Why didn't the incantation affect you? The man replied, placing his cup on the table. Do you think, my son, that the Jinn are that powerful? Not every person can be touched or deceived. We are not an exception. Any house where God's name is recited, where prayers and remembrances are held morning and evening, is impervious to incantations and magic. Then the woman looked at me with a sharp, serious gaze and said in a firm voice this time, You've gotten yourself involved with a group of lowly Jinn, Jason. And you're lucky that you're still at the beginning with them. They haven't yet shown their true nature. They will show you friendship and help. But once your connection to them strengthens, they will make you a humble servant in their hands, offering them sacrifices and offerings, sinking into their darkness, as many before you have done. Then she added, moving a little closer, They don't give anyone anything for free, my son. At first, they drown you in greed and pleasures, making you think you control them, while in truth, they are the ones controlling you. Then, when you reach the point of no return, they make your life an unbearable hell. I was listening to them, my heart pounding violently. I didn't know whether to believe, to fear, or to scream. All I knew was that at that moment, for the first time, I felt that I was not the master of what was happening, but merely a pawn in a bigger game whose rules I didn't understand. I answered them in astonishment. Are you Jinn too? How do you know all this? The old man slowly raised his head, looked at me with eyes filled with sadness and nostalgia, and said in a quavering voice, No, my son, we are humans, just like you. But in my youth, I had a harsh experience with them. He continued, turning his face towards the burning fire before us. You know that incantation they taught you? It's the thief's incantation. It's a very old incantation used by sorcerers to delude people and rob their minds. I learned it myself in my days of ignorance, and I used it when I practiced magic before God saved me with His mercy and guided me to repentance. I know their danger well, Jason. I know how they deceive humans until they think they own them, while in truth, they are slaves to them, bound by chains of illusion and darkness. The woman intervened with her calm yet powerful voice. By God's grace, we now treat people and help victims of Jinn and magic. We've been watching you for a long time, and that's why we deliberately lured you here. Not to harm you, but for your own good. The path you're on has a terrible end, torment in this life, and greater woe in the hereafter. Silence prevailed for moments, broken only by the crackling of the fire. I was listening to them, and their words were like knives stabbing my chest. Every word struck a nerve, reminding me of what I had become, of the darkness that had filled my heart. That night, my soul rebelled against me, as if it wanted to break free from the shackles I had bound it with. I decided to leave everything: theft, alcohol, dealing with the Jinn, all those sins that were slowly consuming my life, eating away at my soul day by day. I looked at the sky and said to myself, I fell so I could be a slave to shadows. It's time to return to the light. Light with poverty is better than wealth with darkness. With this simple sentence, I decided to end my path. I headed towards the church, tears streaming from my eyes, as if purifying me from the sins of a night gone by. Behind me, Michael, Maya, and the rest of the companions appeared. pulling me back with a strange gentleness, trying to convince me to return. Forget the words of the old folks. Remember your dream. Come back with us. Let's have a session that will erase your worries and restore you to your former glory. I ignored all their voices and followed my path with its stumbling steps. Even as I was about to enter the church, I heard them threatening me from afar. If you persist in your decision, we will take everything from you. We will destroy you. I didn't look back. I entered the church, broken but with determination and faith. When I returned to my room, I found it turned upside down. All the money and gold I had was gone. I didn't grieve, for I had already intended to get rid of that money anyway, so its loss didn't tempt me. It is as if a heavy burden had been lifted from me. Days passed. They kept coming back every day, trying to seduce me and return to how we were. But I was determined to follow a new path, and by God's grace, I was blessed with a job better than I had expected. Yet, the consequences of what I had done didn't end. Behind my back, from time to time, money, gold, or valuable things would disappear from my house in ways I couldn't explain. I knew it was them. I didn't grieve for it. I considered it a price I pay today for what I committed in the past. A repentance in which the light of simplicity completely transformed my life. An honorable poverty is better than tainted wealth. And this is how I paid for my mistake. I keep wondering, is there anyone among you who could have resisted this temptation? Or does poverty make us all weak in the face of demons? Tell me in the comments. Do you think the Jinn were my real friends or my clever enemies? What's the one thing you would never sell, no matter what they offer you? Support the channel to continue. Subscribe now, because every new story is a warning. Turn on the bell so you don't miss any secrets of the darkness. Press like if the story terrified you as much as it terrified me, because the terrifying truth is that these events repeat every day around us.